So tell us about this performance you're going to do at FireLight and this character named Boodananda.
So, Boodananda is my alter ego. He is 26 years old. He was born on September 9th, 1999. He's an aspiring sex shaman. When I say aspiring, he doesn't really know much about spirituality or tantra, but he pretends that he does. I came up with this character actually about 10 years ago, but I was writing songs that are satirical, that are, and I did that for about 8 years, and then I actually started performing as the character in late 2024 in a way that it was like, no winks, no nudges. Like I come out in full garb, and then set the context for it that people know it's a joke, but the character doesn't acknowledge that. Originally inspired by Andy Kaufman and Tony Clifton and that whole world. And in fact, I used the song 2001: A Space Odyssey, the intro, which is kind of a nod to both Andy Kaufman and Landmark, which is like a double Easter egg. We've known each other, you and I, Philippe, for a while, and we've both spent a lot of time in these kind of sacred sexuality communities, let's say. And so for me, it's been about 15 years or so. And I've met a lot of wonderful people, and I've met some people that are kind of cringy and really, predators. And one of the things that I saw that a lot of people have seen, I'm not the first person to see this, is that it's like the predators are all doing the same thing. There's just like a way that there's like almost a script. And I just thought, gosh, it'd be really funny and enjoyable to put on a character who just gets to play out all these things in a performance art sort of way, but that people know it's a joke. And then it has this wonderful, I wouldn't even say side effect, because it's kind of almost the primary function of Boodananda, but I joke and say, but again, I'm not joking, is that he's an education platform disguised as comedy. Because everything that I'm doing when I'm playing Boodananda is a orange or a red flag. And what I really hope for is that people see that, especially beginners, especially folks that haven't been around those communities much, is that they watch something that Boodananda does and they laugh and it's fun, and then maybe like a week or a month later they happen to be at a festival and maybe a guy is saying some of these things or being kind of cringy or gaslighty or manipulative or saying these things like, well, geez, if your chakras were more open, then you'd probably want to have sex with me more, or whatever the fuck. And that they've heard this from Boodananda, and then it kind of just like, it sort of like lights up something, and says, wait a second, it's not about my chakras. Actually, I really just get to choose whether I want to have sex with someone or not. Radical idea. And so, so Boodananda just, and it was this project where I was like, okay, I'm going to play these things out. And I, for the last 20 years, have been a performing singer-songwriter. I love like the folk world. I love just like telling stories and playing guitar and that kind of intimate experience that you can have with an audience. And so in a way, actually, really the Boodananda project has been, I'm 43, and being like, it's been a chance to see a bunch of rivers in my life kind of converge into one. And it's been incredibly satisfying, because, I get to be a musician, I get to be a performer, I get to be a comedian, and then also, an intellectual, which is like the foundation of Boodananda comes from a lot of like deep thinking and conversations I've had with some really smart people about like how this stuff goes wrong, how like why do people like just kind of fall for some of this stuff sometimes, and where does it come from, and so that's the project. And I started doing it about 2 years ago, and a year and a half ago almost, and it's been the first show I did with Boodananda was I did 45 minutes of Dave doing his own music, sincere stuff, and then I did an hour of Boodananda. it was at a house show, and it was the best show I've ever put on in my entire life. And I've done a lot of shows, and I thought, okay, there's something to this alter ego thing, and it's been fun.
What would you say is the most challenging thing about doing a show like this?
Okay, so I'm not going to try to give away too much, but so the most challenging thing is that it's really to like fully stay in character, right? Because, you know, I have a body, like I have feelings, I have emotions, and so like as an example, something that happened at the first show that I didn't expect was, you know, I'm playing this creepy guy, and of course part of what I get to do in that container is I get to just really hit on women in like a very direct way. And I would notice at times that like then there'd be like a moment there, like there would be blood flowing and, you know, happening between us, and then it's like, and there's a way that there's this kind of like dissonance between like I'm playing this character, but then like my body is just being my body and authentically, and whether it's feelings or, you know, little smiles and laughter because something just went so weird. But like Boodananda doesn't, you know, he's kind of a narcissist sociopath, so he doesn't really react in the same way, and so I have to kind of suppress my own feelings. And then there was this whole like the way that there's this dance of attraction, and that's also weird because and I imagine it's even weird for the women too. And maybe part of it is because there is this container where it is actually safe to flirt with this guy who's also creepy because they know it's me and it's a performance. And so it's like there's the challenge is like staying in the character and like allowing just whatever authenticity in the moment to happen. It's really interesting.
Very cool. What would you say is the most awesome thing, or the greatest thing that comes out of doing this show?
Gosh, I mean, there's so many. I mean, it is actually just really nice to be parts of myself that I wouldn't normally be. You know, even as an example, just being like overtly sexual, and just, I mean, Dave is like, I am someone who is typically, I wouldn't say reserved, but like I move really slow, and I'm just very patient, and I don't shoot a lot of shots. I don't take a lot of risks. And Boodananda is the complete opposite. And so there's a way that it's kind of, it's because there's a permission field and because there's the context is set, I get to just be like oozing with like desire and sexuality. And then there's another piece that comes in that I didn't expect, which is really fun, which is the musician part of me also gets to express things that, you know, I wouldn't be able to. So I've been playing music in bars and restaurants and clubs and all that for many years. And, you know, I'm annoyed with people being on their phones or, you know, not paying attention or clapping on the 1 and the 3 and just like, and so Boodananda just, when I'm in Boodananda mode, like I just chastise people for that and they love it. Whereas like Dave mode, I have to maybe do it. I could like be humorous and I could be funny and gentle people, but I won't be like, get off your fucking phone, you know, but Boodananda will just be a dickhead. And so that is just, it opens up a whole world of possibilities that is really enjoyable.
Some of the work, the character work I've done, just feel that I've done in the past. Kind of, I can relate to that in a sense that it feels like character work or archetypal work, or even in, you know, Ista would call it shamanic work. So, you know, or transpersonal work.
Yeah.
Like what does that occur as for you? And are there any dangers related to doing work, like, you know, just trying to embody a sociopath narcissist?
Sure. I mean, I think, well, first of all, Boodananda loves Isto, so he loves the shamanic frame. He's all
of course
about
he does.
That. I think, you know, So I'll tell a story from a festival I played last year that taught me something, and unfortunately, it was a very gentle lesson. It wasn't, but like I can't. So what I've been doing, what I was doing up to that point is I would come out as Dave in street clothes before the performance, and I would say, "Hey, everybody," and I would just say what's going to happen. Hey, my name's Dave. I'm a performer and a musician. I'm going to be changing and coming out as my alter ego, Jaiji Boodananda. He's an awful person, grandiose narcissist. It's going to be super cringy. It's going to be awful. And if anybody wanders into the festival grounds or to this performance, like tap them on the shoulder, let them know it's a joke, because otherwise they might stop breathing, and we don't want that. And so I would do that, and then I came out as Boodananda. Now, what I've since done is also added a piece at the end where I change back into Dave, and then we have a dance party and kind of shake it off. But here's why. So I did that, and then I went off stage, and then I changed, and then went about my ways. And a woman came up to me afterwards who had a great time at the show. She was sitting in the front row. There was actually this moment where I was doing like a mouth trumpet, like, and I joked that, this festival didn't have the budget for a trumpet player, so I just had to do that. And then she just happened to have a trumpet right there, and she's a really good trumpet player. And so she just started playing the trumpet with me and had this fun thing. And it was just like, this is great. She came up to me after the show when I changed back into Dave, and she was like, God, that was so fun. I had so much, you were so great, whatever. And then she was like, it's funny, your performance was right after dinner. So I brought my dinner with me. And it just sat in front of me the whole time. I had no appetite the whole time you're on stage. Right. Because, and what that taught me was like, oh my gosh, like, the cringe and basically Boodananda is like every woman's like awful ex-boyfriend just like come to life in front of them, and now they have to like sit with that for an hour. And again, it's funny and cathartic and all that, but that in a way it's kind of related to what I was saying earlier about like there's the experience we're having here, and then there's the experience we're having here. And her experience here was like, this is great, and her experience in her body was like, I don't know about this, let's not use our energy for digestion right now because we might need it to run away, and it was like, it was so fascinating. And so that what I put in place after that show was like, I changed back into Dave, and we do a dance party and just literally shake it off and just play some like dance music, and I run around and I high five people, look them in the eyes, so they know I've like transformed back from this narcissist. And
are we still in costume at that point?
No, so I changed back. I changed back into street clothes. Yeah, and I might have like a meet and greet for Boodananda like the next day, so if people want to talk to Boodananda, but I have very tight containers for him because I don't want to. I want to really do that, character work. I want to be, if I'm in character, I'm in character, and so yeah, so like that was a really interesting lesson to show that there was a lot going on, especially for women, honestly. Most of the guys are like, dude, it's funny, I don't get it. Like, why would it, but like for a lot of women, it's just like, ooh, like this is a somatic experience of cringe, not just a mental thing.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you is you want to, it's like you create a container for Boodananda to be inside of. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the meet and greet, or whether it's the show, or whether it's there's always a container to kind of sort of contain him, yeah, and contain the experience of him as well, so that experience doesn't sort of unravel in directions it shouldn't go.
Yeah, and I don't want to water down the character. I mean, because the Andy Kaufman, Tony Clifton thing was really the original inspiration, and I love how true to the character Andy Kaufman was. He really was like, we're all going to believe in this, and you have to, it's like he really pulled people into that. And I want to have that experience, and I don't want to fuck with people in the wrong way. I want to fuck people in the right way,
Well, it's like it's breaking the fourth wall, and people are having an interactions with a character that essentially does exist as an archetype, mm-hmm, but you as Dave don't want to impact them negatively in the way that this character would.
Right. And actually, in a way, I want to like kind of repattern it so that they interact with Boodananda from a place of agency.
Yeah.
And I try to create that from like almost like I'm thinking of sort of like dominant, submissive, but there's a way that I'm trying to create that from the bottom. Like, I try to show up as Boodananda in a way that is, it's easy to lose. Like, I play to lose, this idea that, like, mm-hmm, I might have an interaction with someone that's cringy, but they're going to see through it because of the context and because of what I'm saying. And then they're, at some point, going to go, yeah, you're just a creep, man. What? And then I'm going to go, and I'm going to say something even dumber, and then the crowd's going to get behind them, and they're going to have an experience of actually not being gaslit for the first time. Maybe not for the first time, who knows? But like for, you know, they're going to have an experience of not being, when it goes well. This is all, it's all improv in the moment. There's, you know, magic happens and different things, but that's what I'm going for. You know, I really want people to have that experience, especially, beginner people. It's really fun to see like kind of what can get played out in that realm.
Yeah, I'm realizing that I haven't seen a whole lot of character work to that at what I'm imagining is going to be a pretty high level of interactivity. You know, you go to a play, and you know the characters are interacting with each other, but they very rarely interact with the audience in a way that where they stay in character. And having done character work at festivals, like it was a very specific skill to actually stay in character and never lose it, because that was the power of that. Because in the interaction there was power, and there was transformational power, and there was also kind of an entertaining aspect to it.
Yeah, and there's like a BDSM aspect to it too, in a sense that like I'm setting up scenes beforehand typically, because I will do, you know, like a classic thing that Boodananda does is like, you know, he'll find a woman and do a healing on her, but of course like it kind of turns sexual and he falls in love with her and all that, and there's usually touch involved. So whenever there's touch involved, I again learned this through different things, and so maybe if it's a friend in the audience, I can
like a plant.
Yeah, so I plant people in the audience, you know, and I especially if it's going to be like a really involved thing, and again that, because it's, you know, what it's kind of going back to the somatic thing too. It's so fascinating, which is like I need that, like I need to know that they are 100% okay with me touching them. Otherwise, I'm not gonna act. I'm not gonna be in character. I'm gonna like, because the Dave in me will hesitate and be like, and then kind of maybe have to do like is this okay? And like and I don't. So like for me to feel like I can fully play the character, I have to like really know beforehand, like, is this okay? Like even like, you know, you and I were talking in your kitchen earlier, and then I was asking you about like Ista, because like Boodananda has been joking about Ista for a long time, but like I want to know, like, hey, like how are things, like what is, you know, what can I, because you know it's an elephant in the room in a lot of ways, and it's like, okay, what can I say about this? How can I joke about this in a way, not so nobody will get offended, but that so there's just a consideration of like the impact, and so that I can be a performer. I can be free, and I can be expressive and creative.
Yeah, it's almost like you're. I mean, even just in this conversation, you're sort of setting the container so that people have enough of a sense. It's a little bit like going into a zoo, and there's a way that you can approach the animals, but you can't get too close. But there's guardrails, so to speak.
Yeah, and then I mean, this is all the so many metaphors to the spaces we create, but like, you know, the stronger the fence, the more we can play, you know, right? It's the whole like metaphor with the kids in the playgrounds, you know, if there's no fence, they stay to the center. If there's a fence, they play the whole playground, right? You heard that before?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so with Boodananda, like if people are unsure about whether it's real, we can't play hard. You know, we can't, it has to be very kind of soft and campy. But if they know and they are sure and everybody's in on it, and then I can be really cringy, and we can play hard, and that's kind of fun. Right. So it's a really, and again, this is the fascinating thing is like, I mean, I've been in the world of, I've been performing, and I've spent many hours on stages, but not in the world of theater. And I love talking to folks like you and others that have done character work and been in the world of theater, because I'm getting to learn so much about that craft, and everything I'm saying here is all things I've learned in the last year and a half by trial and error in some ways, you know, and performing for my friends and doing these kinds of things, and then seeing like, and getting wonderful feedback. In fact, you know, even like, probably, you know, Hema gave me some great feedback after a performance I did last year, and like she was like, hey, what if you had a closing moment where you changed back into Dave? And I was like, and initially I was like, oh, is that going to water it down? Then I was like, oh, that's a great idea actually, and I tried it and it worked great, and hey, thank you for saying that. That was great. So I've gotten a lot of, you know, just like great feedback, and people helping me just dial that in, because fundamentally, again, like I'm someone who a Boodananda character could perform with, and I don't need any container. I've never been fucked with by these guys in a certain way, right? And so it's a journey of like just doing the things for others that I might not need, which of course again speaks to setting these spaces and doing this kind of stuff, right? It's like it's not about me projecting myself onto everybody and then saying, okay, what would I need if I was them? Because that's just limited, especially for someone who's not super sensitive or maybe has a nervous system that's not going to get rocked as easily, and I have to really put myself in the other people's shoes and not water down the character. And so it's fascinating.
Sounds like there's a little bit of a public service.
I want it to be a public service, and I want it to be a service for the beginners too. Andy Kaufman, and for folks who haven't really looked into the Andy Kaufman and Tony Clifton thing, I really recommend it. It's just amazing. The movie Man on the Moon, I think, did a great job, Jim Carrey. But with Andy Kaufman, like the character of Tony Clifton was meant to kind of be like a, Andy. I think Andy had gotten famous and was kind of like, oh, I'm famous. Oh, you love me? Okay, screw you guys. Like, let me fuck with you there. And that was that's a certain orientation. And for me, that's not the orientation I'm taking with Boodananda. I'm like, I want to kind of fuck with the actual predators. Like, I want them to feel like a little bit exposed, but I want the beginners to feel in on the joke. I don't want them to be lost. And it's easy for them to be lost. Like, let's face it, like they can be fooled. That's kind of the point. And so that's why I really try to set that context beforehand, because that's what I want. Yeah.
Beautiful. So a couple more questions, and then we'll move on to the other. Yeah. So you're just about to get changed, and you're gonna essentially.
We're not gonna film that part, but
No.
Change, yeah. It's not that kind of show.
I'll reserve that for the paid
OnlyFans.
For the paid
version, yeah.
The OnlyFans of Boodananda. Yeah. No. So you're gonna get changed. We're gonna stop the camera. You're gonna get changed. And you're going to become the character, much as we've been talking about. So what would you like the audience of this video to know to kind of know, to be prepared for what they're about to see?
I would say to the extent that it feels safe, which hopefully it does. You're watching this on a screen, and then in the performances are like, yeah, just like, I don't know, like let yourself interact, like let yourself play with this character in the same way that this character's playing with you, but like from an authentic place. Like you don't, like, I think some people see Boodananda and they want to become a character in response, and that is a totally valid way to do it. But it's really interesting to just try to be yourself and see what happens. And so, like, even in watching him, I don't know, like whatever comes up, maybe there's something about him you like, or you think is really like endearing in a strange, creepy way, or maybe, I don't know. I just think, but it's let it be shamanic. I mean, whatever, like it's. It's all an experiment too. It's so, and if you have any thoughts, email me, find me I'm pretty easy to find, Dave Booda. So, it's been a fascinating experiment. I don't know what I'm going to say or what happens. It's all, it's all interesting for me too.
Beautiful. And anything else you would like to say or leave the watchers with?
Well, one of the things that you and I talked about doing that I'm really excited about doing at FireLight is we're going to do, so Boodananda will perform one of the nights, and then the next day we're going to do a session called Boodananda Aftercare. And what that is it's kind of like a behind the actor studio, basically a lot like what we're doing now, except doing it with you, Philippe, and I as a discussion where it's also kind of a behind the actor studio for the organizer in how we think about these containers and asking you questions and us talking about things like how do you actually work with the fact that people like Boodananda might be in these spaces, like and how do you create the containers such that people like Boodananda actually just don't even want to come to stuff like this, and how do you deal with sexual assault and things that when you're in spaces where risk is possible, that's just that will happen sometimes, and then again, a lot of the stuff we were talking about here about like why we'll kind of break down the performance, not too much, but like in some ways, but like this happened, but like, and I'm imagining too what is kind of probably probable is like there's people in the audience of like it's funny you did that thing, but that happened to me like a month ago. Like I had that exact experience with a guy at a festival, and so like it's just a chance to kind of really turn on our minds and really think about these concepts, because again the Boodananda is primarily an education and platform, and it's really like the impulse is from kind of an activism place, as well as a comedian and an entertainer. But like that really, I almost do that session for me too, because it really scratches a nerdy itch for me to get to kind of talk about this stuff and name things and really want everybody to come along on that ride, because that's really important to me.
Amazing. Cool. So we'll see Boodananda in just a minute.
All right.